going, Poke fans? Welcome back to CCG Castle. In today's video, we're looking at interesting deck that recently appeared on TCGO, and it's been actually popular on online tournaments. It is a Durant. So the card was reprinted basically the first time when we saw Durant with the War attack was in the Noble Victory set, and if I'm not wrong, it only required one metal energy to be used. Maybe it was two, but I think it was only one. And basically it says that for each Durant in play, you can discard a top card of your opponent deck. So theoretically speaking, we can discard 4 cards at the top of our opponent deck if we have 4 Durants in play, but we need to pay double Chorus Energy attack cost in order to do that. And the whole strategy of Durant deck is to win a game by decking out our opponent and leaving them by a deck so they cannot draw a card at the beginning of their turn. And it's on the paper and in theory it looks really easy. Theoretically speaking, our opponent needs to set 6 prize cards and they need to draw 7+1 card for the beginning of their first turn. So in theory that's 14 out of the 60 cards. So in theory they have like 46 cards left, which means that we need to hit them 12 times with Durant. But if we hit them 12 times, they will actually draw 12 cards as well. So in theory, let's say we need to hit them 10 times with Durant the War with 4 Durants in play. And if everything goes perfect, we can win the game easily. Well, in theory, that's one thing, but in the real life scenario, it's not easy as simple as it looks, because obviously we need to have enough Durants in play every time when we try to attack. Obviously we need to have enough energies to pay attack cost, and we need to avoid being knocked out, which is the most important thing. But in some situations it's definitely possible, and this deck list even won a tournament on TCGO, so it's definitely a interesting deck list. But there is also an interesting card in this deck list as well, which is called Cursed Shovel, which says that if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out by damage from opponent's attacks, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. So in that case, we can discard 6 cards out of our opponent top deck in theory every single time when the Cursed Shovel is attached to Durant. And if our Durant is knocked out by opponent attack. So in theory that can add a little bit more of the cards that can be discarded from the top of our opponent deck. So let's say we have 4 Durants at play, we use the War, and we have Cursed Shovel attached to Durant. Next turn our opponent hit us with 100 damage and they knocked our Durant out, or maybe with just a 90, which is enough. Then we can discard 2 more cards, and we can, for example, then play Rescue's Carrier, put Durant back on the bench, and repeat that again. In order to set up properly, we have Chinchino with Make Do, and in order to use Make Do, obviously we need to pay 1 card from our hand. We need to discard 1 card in order to draw 2 extra cards. And that's really important because we really need to set up as fast as possible. This deck also plays 4 copies of Galar Mines, so the retreat cost of both active Pokemons in play will be 2 extra. And in help of 4 copies of Boss's Orders, we can simply catch something from our opponent bench, and if they don't have Switch and they cannot pay heavily retreat cost on those Galar Mines, then we can simply start the warring and chipping the cards out of their top deck and sending them back into the discard pile. So the whole strategy of this deck is basically to mill opponent as fast as possible. This deck is actually at this moment playable only because Manaphy with Whale ability is printed in the Brilliant Star set. So this is the card that prevents all damage done to benched Pokemons by attacks from opponents' Pokemon. So basically, as long as we have Manaphy on the bench, we don't need to worry about Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX or any other Pokemon that does damage on the bench. Remember, putting the damage counters, Manaphy cannot prevent Pokemons from putting the damage counters. That's only Giratina promo from X and Y era can do that. Neither Mew from Unbroken Bones was capable of doing that. But for example, Machamp from Burning Shadows, if I'm not wrong, have ability that can prevent damage done and also putting damage on the benched Pokemons. But it's stage 1, so yeah. This deck also plays 2 copies of Snorlax. You're probably familiar with the Snorlax if you used to play the CGI, for example. Gormandai's ability is a very powerful ability. It allows you to draw cards till you have 7 in your hand, and if you use this ability, your turn's over immediately. But yeah, you can simply tank a little bit with the Snorlax and draw cards till you have 7 in your hand. Oh, okay. So that's all about Pokemons. And I also need to mention the new Call for Family Minccino that's also really good in this deck as well, because theoretically speaking, turn 1 we can start with Minccino, we can call for Family for 2 more Durants, and we can use Capture Energy to call 1 more Durant in play, and with only 1 level ball we have 4 Durants in play ready to go turn 2. And yeah, that's for the Pokemons. Speaking about trainer cards, in order to properly set up, we have 4 copies of Level Ball and 4 copies of a Quick Ball. So with the Level Ball, we can grab either way Cinccino, Minccino, Durant, or Manaphy. But with the Quick Ball, we can also grab the Snorlax in addition to those Pokemons that I already mentioned. 4 copies of Rescue Carrier is a must-play card in this deck because it allows you to grab 2 Pokemons with 90 or less HP from discard pile back in your hand. 3 copies of Scoop Up Net so we can scoop something from the active position and avoid those heavily retreating energy cost with the Galar Mine. Deck also plays 2 Gel Horns, both active Pokemons are now confused, which help us a lot, specifically in the late game when our opponent loses enough resources and the switch options, then we can simply confuse their active Pokemon, and in order to from them to be able to attack us, they need to flip a coin, and if they miss heads on the coin flip, they won't be able to deal any damage to Durant. Instead, they will take 20 damage from the confusion. I already mentioned 4 copies of Cursed Shovels, so then we're gonna take a look at the supporter lineup. So this deck plays 4 copies of Boss's Order. Switch one of your opponent benched Pokemon with their active Pokemon. With so many Boss's Orders in play, we can simply catch something from our opponent bench, put it in the active position, and force them to pay that heavily retreat cost when we are using the war on the Durant. 3 copies of Single Strike Bruno. Why Single Strike Bruno? Some people will say, well, there's Professor Research, it's a better card. Well, it's not. In this specific deck, Bruno is much better because we really want to use Bruno only when our Pokemon is knocked out, so we can draw 7 cards, shuffle hand and draw 7 cards. Additionally, this deck plays also 3 copies of Marnie. Each player shuffled their hand and put it on the bottom of their deck. If either player put any card on the bottom of their deck, in this way you draw 5 cards, your opponent draws 4 cards. Marnie is also a very good card in the early stage of the game, specifically because we can disrupt our opponent's hand and put them back down to 4 cards. Deck also plays 2 copies of Peonia. Why? Well, just because in some situations, if we prize our Durants, we won't be able to get them. So if you want to access Durant, the only opportunity for us to access Durant is by using Peony. Put up to 3 prize cards in your hand, then for each prize card you put in your hand, in this way put a card from your hand face down as a prize card, which means that with 2 copies of them we can definitely access prized Durants and swap them with something from our hand. And speaking about energy cards, the deck plays 8 energy cards in total, starting with 1 copy of Twin Energy, 3 copies of Capture Energies, and obviously 4 copies of Double Turbo Energy cards. And this is pretty much it. This is the Durant Mill deck list. So how powerful and how strong Durant Mill deck list is, well, you can judge by yourself. If you are a competitive player, you should definitely know how broken and devastating and powerful Mill deck can be. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more videos. Hit the thumbs up and don't forget to smash that notification bell so you don't miss any future when you're looking forward to maybe purchase any of these cards. Well, make sure to check ccgcastle.com. Link will be provided in the video description. Thank you for your time and we'll see you next time.